Hello everyone, this is James Shore with another test-driven JavaScript video. I'm recording this on August 11th, 2012, picking up right where we left off in the last episode. And what we had finished in the last episode is we had just modified our Jake script so that it would test the version of Node that we're using. And the reason for that is because when we worked on our server stuff, we found that the code would only work if we were using if we were using a newer version of Node. The get command didn't allow you to use this shortcut URL syntax in the version of Node we were using. So I wanted to fix that in our script. And that really is an example of, again, it's an example of keeping your maintenance costs low. When you run into a problem, you don't just fix the problem, but you prevent that kind of problem from happening again. And you prevent that kind of problem from affecting the other members of your team. Now, again, we don't have a team here except for sort of you guys as my virtual team, but I want to act as if we did. So if I was working in a team of people, I'd discover that problem, fix it, and then before I integrated, before everybody else was working with the code that needed the new version, I'd want to modify the code so that it was self-documenting. Not only document it, but assume that nobody reads my crap because they don't, and actually force them to deal with it if it's a problem. So I'm changing the build script so that it checks the Node version and will fail if they don't have the right version. So that's what this code's all about. Now, what we really want to do is just call a shell command. Node does not make that easy. It does not make that easy. So, but we've got it working now. That's what we worked on last episode. And now what I want to do is clean this up. So first, let's just rename this. This is more of a constant, so let's call it desired Node version, or maybe even just Node version. And I could put that here within this task, or I could put it at the top. It's a pseudo const. It's not really a const keyword, but it's acting like a constant. Anyway, so this is a constant, and in Jake files or other sorts of make files, I'm always a little torn about whether to put my constants right where they matter or at the top where they're easy to change. In this case, I've decided to put it right where it matters. In the future, I might decide to change it. So we've got a Node version, we run the command, and here's all this stuff that does that. So what I want to do now is I want to make this code just cleaner. I think what I'd like to do is be able to say something along the lines of just shell out to no-version. And it does have to be done asynchronously. There's no way of getting around that. But maybe have the standard out handed to us on a silver platter so that we could say this. That's how I'd like the code to work. In fact, let's just take that out as well. That is my dream. So let's make that happen by writing ourselves a little shell command. It will take a command, and it will take a callback, and we don't need this. We'll log the command. Then here, we'll run our callback with standard out passed through. I think that will work correctly, because in a build file, you tend to do a lot of shell commands. So we're going to want to do this. I'm not sure if this will work on Windows. I hope it will. Fingers crossed, but we'll see about that. Looks like it works. So let's change this back to our current version. And everything seems to be working just fine. So good. And let's go ahead and have this write just a blank line at the end. Is that what we want? It'll do for now. And I think we're ready to integrate. where we're going to pick up with this time, in the last episode, which I recorded a couple of weeks ago, we had just finished making sure that we have the Node version right. And there were a couple of comments about that. One is that we don't actually have to shell out to Node. The Node has a built-in version string, which I realized after I recorded that it must have something like that. But somebody did point it out to me. Oh, look, they're already up to a new version. And I believe it's system.version or something like that. Anyway, so that's something I'll probably want to fix. The other thing I really want to fix with the Node version checker is that, as I've said, normally I would want to enforce everybody on the team on the same version of Node so that we didn't have any weird problems, and also that we were using the same version of Node on the actual production server. But for you guys, since it would be inconvenient for you to downgrade your version of Node, I am going to modify this to allow you to have whichever version of Node as long as it's newer. So, but I think that would be a waste of time to do that on camera. So I'm going to go ahead and fix that and then come back. So I'll be back in a few. Okay, I'm back. So I modified the Node version checker to allow a non-strict version. So if we put in, let's say that we expect the Node version to be 0.8.5, and we check that, everything works fine. But I also now have a strict option, which will expect it to be exactly the right amount. And the way that works is I've got a little node parser, a node version parser that uses a little regex to get out the major, minor, and bug fix versions and converts those to integers and returns them in an array. And then if the strict option is set, we expect them to match exactly. And if it's not, then we look one at a time. Now, as in my research, I found that we could, in theory, say if actual is less than expected, then fail with qualifier, blah, blah, blah. And apparently that works in the V8 engine, but I wasn't able to find any confirmation. I tested it. It does seem to work. I wasn't able to find any documentation about that online, so I decided to go with the more verbose but more explicit approach. So there you have it. Let's move on. So we have done this. We have done this. We've created a very simple HTTP server. So I think next time we could go into the client, or I think what we might want to do is actually serve a real file. So let's do that. Next, we will serve a file. So that's it for this time. Thanks for watching, everybody. I will catch you next time.